Good afternoon. We're going to do the watch list for this coming week, which is January 13th. Earnings season starts. The banks are going to have their earnings this week, and I have a fairly small bullish side and pretty big bearish side for this week. I think a lot of things will stop pulling back, and we also have trade war signing or whatever they have going on this week, so it's supposed to happen. If I don't think it will happen, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of trade war pumping going on this week, and Iran and other things like that, so it'll probably be a very volatile week. So with that said, I'm going to start with Roku. And Roku, it's in this little channel right here on the daily, which is on the right, and I think I really like it if it can get below. I mean, it gets below this 127.50. I think it's definitely going to come down and retest this trend line, which is 125. So whether it holds that or not will be another thing. If it does hold it, I'll probably end up going along. But if it doesn't hold, I mean, it's got room down to the 120s. So Roku could be a very good play if it bounces. So that I'm definitely watching for a bounce this week on that trend line and below 127.50. So the next one is AVGO. AVGO. I'm kind of like watching the same thing a little bit. It's got a little trend line right here, the 297 area, and then it has this trend line right here. Well, yeah, support right here, 297, then the trend line at, which is going to be around 292. So if it doesn't hold this support, expect it to retest this trend line, and that's where I'll look to possibly grab a bounce if either one of these starts to hold. So next one's going to be Netflix. Netflix, I know it's sold off. And on the 30-minute over here, it's in some support area, and below it bounced off the 327. I think that if it gets over the 330, over this candle right here, it's got room to probably come back up here and retest the 345 area. But earnings is next week for it, I believe, coming up real soon. So I would imagine it's going to run a little more into earnings. Probably, I'd like to see it fill the gap. So Netflix over 330 to fill the gap into earnings. So that's what I'm looking for on that. Last one for the bullish side is Shack. And Shack is still in this little ascending wedge right here. So if it gets over I'd probably look at it over 60, probably over 62. And if it gets over 62 and it actually can close and get some momentum, I could see it getting up into the 67 area, perhaps even the 70 area. I mean, it's been consolidating and in this little wedge for a couple months, so almost 2 months. So I think it's due to break out here. So definitely be watching Shack for the long side. Now the bearish side, I've got quite a few, and start with John Deere. As you can see right here, John Deere, I mean, it's got a huge bearish engulfing on the daily. I mean, it engulfs the last 2 days, and it closed below the below the 20 EMA on the daily, which is also in the middle kelp. But because it had such a massive drop, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it did try to come up here and retest the 175 before it drops more. So that's what I'm looking for on Deere, that if it pops a little bit, probably short the pop. And the weekly looks really bad. I mean, it's got a inverted hammer right here, so I think that it gets below the 173. I think it could definitely come down here and retest the 168 area. So even though it has a big hourly and 30-minute drop, I think that it could just bounce just a little bit to let the RSI and stuff cool off and before going down lower. So definitely liking John Deere for a short below the 173. We also have WYNN. WYNN, as you can see right here, 30-minute and hourly, you get a descending triangle right here. So I would look to short, below the 140 to probably 80 area for down to the 142s and 141. So you can probably get a couple of dollars out of WYNN. It's got some support right here in the 172. But if it gets below the 140, I mean, it could really come down to the 130, 137 area. So that's what I'm looking for on WYNN. I'm just looking at my list. Another one I have is BA. BA is going to be one that can go either way. And the BA, I mean, it's got this like the weekly going on right here. It's going to be dependent on what happens with the market. I mean, it gets below this 325 area and tests these weekly lows right here on the right, that it could come down here and go to the 315 and even go to the 300. So I'd be very cautious on BA because it's in a do or die situation. I mean, it could either fall apart and fall hard, or it could pop. So it's really a 50-50 chance right here on what's going to really happen. But I think if you get over certain levels, I mean, it's just going to go. It gets over like the 332, look for a push into the 340, 345. And if it gets below the like the 328s, I mean, I think that it's going to go down and retest these other lows right here into the 320s, 315. Then if it gets put into the 315s, it can really get ugly and go to the 300s. So BA is a really it needs to get over one of these levels right here, and because I mean it's got like a head and shoulders on the weekly, but it's been showing that since almost a year. So I mean it could just keep channeling in this little range. So I mean it is descending a little bit, but this is BA, anything can happen. So the other one I have is Target. Just switch that over to the daily. Now Target, I don't know, I just like it for a short here. I think it's gonna fill the gap soon, but I could be wrong. It did close underneath the 20 EMA on the daily, and it's kind of got like a little, like you can see here on the hourly, like a bearish funnel right here. So I think if it gets below this 123 area, 124 area, that it's going to go down here and go to 122. So if it gets down here into 122 area and it does break below that, I think it could come back down to the 118 and test this little wick and perhaps even fill the gap. So that's what I'm looking at in Target. We'll have to see if that's what happens. Humana is another one, HUM, and this is just hanging out at this trend line right here on the daily. So I think that if it gets below this 360-250 area and could come down and retest the 360s, if it breaks that, probably look for a little bit right here, 355, and even the 350 range. So this whole insurance sector is just going up crazy, and it's consolidating right here. Could make another push higher, but I like it on the short side only. I'm not going to chase it up there. So if it dumps, I'll grab it. Triple M is another one I have, and it has the this little like rising wedge right here going on, and it's every time it gets up to this trend line, it rejects it, but it did break out over it, but it came back down. So I will be looking for under 180 to come back and retest the 177 area. So triple M, I mean, I definitely like for a short, only under the 180. FedEx is the next one. Now FedEx is, it hasn't filled the gap yet, but I would have liked to see it fill the gap before going short. But if it gets below the 156, not for 156. Yeah, if it gets below the 156, retest this trend line right here, which is the 152.65 area. That I would like for a short if it does get below 156 to test that support. And trend line, which is right here, which comes back from the daily, which it broke out, rejected, broke out, and I think it's going to reject. So 150 is the bottom trend line of this symmetrical triangle it's got going on in the daily. So Disney is another one, and nothing's really going on with this. It's not have anything going for it. It's got a descending wedge right here. You can see it clear as day. I'll even draw it so you guys can see it better. I could draw it like this if I wanted to. It touches more, touches that, and that. So you can see that going on right there. You can, there's many ways. Everyone can draw any way they want, but I like to see more touches on it. So it tells me it's more significant. So Disney, I will like underneath the 140. I'd like to see it under this 144.20 area. If it gets below the 144, get down to the 143 area. And if it gets below that, it's got room to really drop. So even down to the 138s on Disney. So I don't really see much going for Disney right now. Tesla is the next one. Tesla's got like a descending wedge on the hourly, underneath 473.50 to retest the 450. So that's what I'd be looking for on Tesla, underneath the 473.50 to get down to the 460s and even the 450 area. So that's what I'd be looking for on Tesla. McDonald's is another one. I know McDonald's has been on a tear lately, but McDonald's just filled the gap from earnings. So I would like to see it underneath this right here, which is under 207, to test the 205, then come down here and test the 202.50 area. So I think usually when these they gap down on earnings, it usually takes a while, and then they break out and close the gap, and when they usually close the gap, that's when they usually pull back and retest the breakout area, which is the 198. So that's the extreme case. This is what I'm really hoping for on Shack too, because Shack did the same. It's doing the same thing right here. Because McDonald's has this rising wedge right here that it broke out on January 2nd. That's what I'm looking for on Shack, to do this kind of move. So, but now that McDonald's has closed the gap, I expect it to pull back and retest the 198. So last one is Home Depot. Home Depot, it's consolidating up here. I think that it's getting ready for a pullback. It's up at the top of the Keller channel on the daily, and you get this linear regression trend line right here. So worst case, you could probably come up here and retest it before pulling back. So it did have a cup and handle right here, so it did kind of break out of it. It could be coming back just to retest the handle part and go higher. So that is a possibility too. So, but I'm looking for it on a 224 for a push down here to the 220s on Home Depot. So that's what I'm looking for this week. We'll see how everything happens, how everything plays out. But usually my watch lists are pretty accurate. Most will do what I expect them to do. So make sure you set alerts, take notes, write down the the important areas of what we're looking for and stuff like that. And happy trading. See ya.